Hello, hi, it's me, Crystal, and it's June. And I decided last fall, that when June rolled around, I would do the mid-year book freakout tag. So that is what I'm doing today. Should be super fun. So I will link the video I watched below. All right, and let's just get started. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? That's really difficult. But I'm just gonna go ahead. I don't think this is cheating. But I literally just finished reading this book like yesterday as we were filming this video. And that is Near the Bone by Christina Henry. And I'm just going to pop some pictures up here. This is an adult horror with some supernatural elements. And if you saw my TBR video, then you know I was really hoping that there would be some supernatural elements in this book. This book is really dark and is really good. And like several times where I was reading this book, I was like, why is this so good? I mean, time will tell if it ends up being my favorite read for June, but oh my gosh, I just love this so much. I needed it. I needed something that was just this dark and spooky. And just, it was so good. Like, the writing was so good. I'm just like, I'm so in love with her writing. And I have two other books by Christina Henry that I actually bought before this book. And for some reason, I read this book first. And so I'm really looking forward to reading those other books now because, I just love her writing so much. So the second question is, what is the best sequel that you've read so far this year? And so if you know me, you know, some years I may not read the sequel at all. So basically all I have to choose from is Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, or The Boundless by Anna Bright. And if you saw my reading wrap-up for The Boundless, you know it's not my favorite sequel. It was really good, but like, you know, Crystal didn't get the ship she wanted and she's still mad about it. So I guess it has to be Ruin and Rising, because I don't think I've read any other sequels besides The Boundless. So it kind of has to be Ruin and Rising. I loved Ruin and Rising. It wasn't Siege and Storm. I like Siege and Storm. I didn't love Siege and Storm. So question 3 is, what is a new release you haven't read yet but want to? And for this one, I'm going to say For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten. I pre-ordered this book, but of course the place I pre-ordered it from, it was back-ordered. So I am still waiting for my book. I wasn't going to read it this month anyway, so it's fine. But I really want to read it, and I cannot wait to get it. It's an adult, Little Red Riding Hood fantasy. And I really want it super bad. But it's not here yet. Question 4 is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And hands down, that is All's Well by Mona Awad. This is about this woman who has a lot of issues, and she's like directing this production of 12th Night. I love Mona Awad so much. Not only is she like my favorite contemporary writer, I think she might be one of my favorite writers of all time. I've only read 2 books by her because she only has 2 books out, but I have been wanting this book since I heard it announced, and I've been entering all the giveaways, and of course I have won none of them. And the book comes out in August, so beginning of August, I will have this book in my hands. Question number 5 is the biggest disappointment. There have been some disappointing reads this year. Let me flip through the old reading journal and see if I can find that book. Okay, I almost hate to do this because I did really enjoy reading this book, and that is House of Holo by Sutherland. But the reason why this is the biggest disappointment is like, if you know, then you know, but if you don't know. Paranormal is like my favorite genre of all time. And this is a YA paranormal book. It was very atmospheric. The writing was beautiful, and it was also really good. And it was such an enjoyable read, and I ended up giving it 3 stars because, like, it was so unsatisfying of a read because if you saw my reading wrap up, I had 90% of the plot figured out in chapter 1, and so there was no tension. And even though it was like, it still had this creepy atmosphere, I wasn't creeped out, and it just feels like a missed opportunity because I don't know if it's because I've read so much paranormal that nothing surprises me anymore which I don't think is true. There, you can always still be surprised. I mean, come on. Anyway, or if the author just made everything too obvious, which is what I think happened. I think sometimes, you know, when you've read something several times because you know what happens, sometimes you think you're leaving breadcrumbs when really you're leaving entire loaves of bread everywhere. And it was disappointing, you know, which is one of the reasons Near the Bone set so well with me. Near the Bone by Christina Henry. It's because it had that spooky atmosphere that I wanted, you know, but it was satisfying. And it's like, oh my gosh, I really needed this. I really needed just this dark, spooky, eerie, disturbing read so bad, you know? How you just like, you just have a craving for something? Anyway. And I was really hoping House of Holo would scratch that itch, and it didn't. It just fell so flat for me. And it was disappointing to the point where I'm unhauling the book, and that book is beautiful, but I'm like, you know, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to flip through it. I don't want to reread it. Yeah. I feel deflated just thinking about it. But if you want to read it, I highly recommend it. It was very enjoyable read. It just wasn't satisfying. So question 6 is biggest surprise. I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to go with Ruin and Rising, because as I said when I started reading that series, I picked up the books because of spoiler reviews. I had watched 2 lengthy spoiler reviews on that series, and I guess they popped up in my feed because the show was coming out. I did not know this because I was not super familiar. And, you know, fantasy is always one of those things that it's like most of the time I just can't get into those books. Like that higher concept fantasy, not like contemporary fantasy or urban fantasy. You know, just like those epic fantasies, those adventure fantasies, things like that. And so I went into Ruin and Rising, like, knowing who dies, like, knowing pretty much almost exactly how the book ends. And tell me why I was reading that book and I was still yelling and screaming and crying. Like, I got so emotional. It was so fun. Anyway, that's probably the biggest surprise, because I thought I would enjoy the series, which is why I picked it up. I'm kind of surprised at how much I enjoyed it and how much I loved it. Like, I already liked Leigh Bardugo's writing from reading The Language of Thorns, but yeah, I don't know. I'm really surprised at how much I love that series. So question 7 is favorite new author, debut, or new to you. This is really difficult. I don't want to keep bringing Christina Henry up, but she's one of my favorite new authors. Like, I've read some good books this year by people who I've not read books by before, but I wouldn't say that they were favorites. Like, I really feel like, just based on this one book, that Christina Henry is going on my list of favorite authors. In case you're wondering who else is on there, it's Mona Awad, Leigh Bardugo, and Anne Rice. But she's definitely on the pending list to get on my favorite authors list, pending me reading one more of her books and falling in love. Okay, question 8 is newest fictional crush. I don't want to say the Dark Lane. In fact, I almost kind of have to say the Dark Lane, because I love Nikolai, but I don't have a crush on Nikolai. And I love Maul. Like, I love Maul so much, even though I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I just love Maul. But I don't think I have a crush on him either. I do have a crush on the Dark Lane. Totally okay with his entire character arc in the series, just FYI. But I think I have a crush on the Dark Lane. And I'm expecting to continue to like the Dark Lane when I watch the show. I'm not expecting Ben Barnes to, you know, kill my Dark Lane crush. Okay, question 9 is newest favorite character. Okay, so speaking of Leigh Bardugo, it has to be Nikolai. I love Nikolai. Don't have a crush on Nikolai, but oh my gosh, I love Nikolai so much. He's just so interesting, he's just so cool, and he's just so amazing. And I just want us to be best friends and go on adventures together. Or we'll see. I'll probably read King of Scars and be like, not gonna hang out with this guy, not safe. I don't know. We'll see when I finally get to those books. Kind of on a Grishaverse break right now, but anyway. Question 10 is a book that made you cry. I hate to keep keep mentioning the same few books over and over again, but so instead of saying Vernon Rising, I'm going to say Shadow and Bone. Definitely cried in Shadow and Bone. Oh gosh. I love getting wrapped up in books. You know, I love getting so wrapped up and emotionally invested because it's just like when I'm done reading, it's like coming out of like a haunted house where it was dark and like you realize it's the middle of the day and you're just like, oh my gosh. It's just so disorienting, but like in a really good way. Probably why I love that book so much, because I just got super into it and super emotional. It was fun. Okay, question 11 is a book that made you happy. Okay, I'm going to pick Death Note. Now, I have the Death Note Black Edition, and so there are 2 volumes in every 1 volume of the Black Edition, so I'm not sure which one made me the happiest. I don't know if it was 1, 2, or 6. And the 6th volume would be the last one. Death Note, if you don't know, it's a graphic novel. It's a horror manga. Oh gosh, it was so good. It was so good. I mean, like, I feel like things got a little convoluted there in the middle, but like it ended really strong and it started really strong and it was just so satisfying. I just love it so much. I just think the overall experience of reading Death Note has made me really happy. I mean, other books have made me really happy, but this series made me happy. Question 12 is most beautiful book you bought this year or received. So if you know me, you know I love beautiful books. So the competition for this is really, really steep. But I am going to scan the shelves and scan my notes where I've written down all the books that I bought this year and see if I can figure out which one is the most beautiful. I mean, like, they're all beautiful, but like, which one is the most beautiful? You guys don't even want to know how long I'm trying to make a decision. Like, competition is so steep. Like, there's so many options, but I think I know which one I'm gonna pick, so I'm actually gonna need to go grab it so that you can see it. You can see how shiny it is. It's so shiny. Okay, so I picked The Mirror Broken Wish by Julie C. Dow. I know this is a fairy tale retelling. The tagline says family curses always start somewhere. I want to say it's Snow White. I think this book came out last year. This is so beautiful. It's like when I was looking at my list of books that I bought, I saw this. Like, I saw where I've written the title down for this, and I was like, oh, that book is so pretty. So, you know, first of all, look at this. Look at the way the light is shining on this forest. Look at this spine. It's just so pretty. And I have so many beautiful books. So, I don't know. May not even be fair to pick this one. I haven't even hauled this book yet. I got this not too long ago. But, yep, I was walking through Books A Million. I was like, didn't I want that book? I think I'm going to get it. This is the end paper. It's gorgeous. I love this. It's just so beautiful. Hopefully it's good. I didn't even read the blurb. So, this is what you call a cover buy. But, oh my gosh. I just love it. See this face? There's like an outline. There's somebody's profile. Do you see that? Oh my gosh. And I have a lot of beautiful books, so this is one of many very beautiful books. But this is the one I'm picking for this prompt because I was just looking at this the other day and admiring how beautiful it is. Yeah, I come into my office library sometimes and I just pick up my books and look at them. Sometimes I hug them. So the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So for this, I'm going to consult my priority books list, and these are books that I decided at the end of 2020 that I wanted to make sure I read this year. Okay, so out of 16 books, I have knocked off 5. Now, I haven't read 5. I've read 3, and I've unhauled 2. One of those unhauls was a DNF. The other one failed the hook and read test. I don't know if I explained it, but if I have, I'll explain again in case you haven't heard me explain it. Basically what I do is every once in a while, I look at a book that I've had for a long time and I'm like, why did I buy that book? This is why I have my TBR structured the way I do, because I'm trying to get a good balance of new buys and old books that I've had on my shelf for a little while and that I still haven't read. And so every once in a while, I will pick up a book that I'm on the fence about, or that I don't remember why I bought it, or I don't remember what it's about, and I will do what I call a hook and read. And I didn't make that up. I'm pretty sure I got that off of somebody a couple years ago anyway. But a hook and read is when I pick up the book and I read, 1 to 5 pages, and I decide if the book is grabbing me, if I like the writing, if I like the atmosphere, if this just feels like it's a story for me, if I am interested in continuing to read this book. It's not a book I'm trying to read now. It's just a book I'm trying to decide if I'm going to unhaul it or not. I did this with a lot of ebooks earlier this year when I was organizing my ebook TBR. Because my theory is that if I don't like the first few pages of the book, it's not going to get better. And so rather than torture myself, I just unhaul the book or delete it from my Kindle app, and we don't look at that book anymore. So other books that I have left, I'm just going to read them off. I'm not going to go pull all of them off the shelf. But I have Cleopatra and Witches. So these are 2 different books. They're both by Stacy Schiff. They're both nonfiction books. One of them is a deep dive into the Salem witch trials, and the other one is a deep dive into the life of Cleopatra. And I've heard really good things about the Cleopatra book, and have heard kind of mixed reviews about Witches, but I still really want to read it. And then, speaking of nonfiction, book 3 is The Trial of Lizzie Borden. I don't know who the author is off the top of my head. But this is a nonfiction book that has a bunch of transcripts and such from the trial of Lizzie Borden. And I think that is all of the nonfiction. And then I have a classic. So I want to read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I've read the manga classics. I've watched the BBC version of the movie with Colin Firth, who's like the best Mr. Darcy ever. I have watched that several times. If you know how long it is, each episode, there are 6 or 50 minutes long. It is worth it. It is so good. So I really want to actually read the book, and it's high priority, okay? It's high priority. Okay, I also have Covenant with the Vampire, which would be a reread. It's a book I read in high school. It's by Jeanne Calagridis, and it's the family Dracul, and there's a vampire curse on the family. And I remember book 1 being really fun, but in a really dark, bloody kind of way. Lots of family drama. I think there's some diary entries or whatever. But I've been wanting to reread that for a while because I still have the series. I kept it because I was planning on rereading book 1 and then finishing the series at some point. It actually did come up on my TBR, but I didn't get to it that month. So we still want to do that. Speaking of rereads, I want to reread Lasher by Anne Rice. But then I decided that before I reread Lasher, I want to reread The Witching Hour, which is a 1,000-page book. So I'm listening to it via audiobook, which is 50 hours long. And at the current speed I'm listening to it on is 34 hours long. I'm really enjoying it so far, though, so much. So I want to reread Lasher because I don't remember anything except for the first chapter. And so I'm not even 100% sure I read this book. I don't know if I started reading it and I was super disturbed and then I quit. I mean, I was a teenager. So I'm pretty sure that whatever was bothering me as a teenager will not be bothering me now, but we'll see. There's 3 books in that series. It's The Witching Hour, there's Lasher, and there's Telltales. So gotta reread Lasher to get to Telltales, and gotta reread The Witching Hour so I understand what's going on in Lasher. I wasn't going to reread The Witching Hour, but because it's so long, but I decided I really want to reread it though. So I'm very excited to be in the process of it. So hopefully I'll get to Lasher soon. And then speaking of sequels, I want to read Queen of Ruin by Tracy Banghart. And this is a sequel to Grace and Fury, which I read 2 years ago and I really liked it. And it kind of ended on this note where I was really worried about one of the characters, but it's as soon as the book came out, I just read far enough to see that character was okay, and I was like, okay, I can calm down now. And I think I was probably reading some other stuff, and then I haven't picked it up yet. And it also came up on June's TBR, but I'm not reading any YA books in June, and so then it's like, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to honor my mood while at the same time get through my TBR and get through my priority list. Also, I have a Treasury of Great American Scandals. I forgot about that. That is also a nonfiction book, and that is on June's TBR. So hopefully, I will be getting to that book soon. It is A Treasury of Great American Scandals by Michael Farquhar. And title speaks for itself. A collection of stories from the Founding Fathers not acting right. I also have To Kill a Kingdom. I know this is like a mermaid book. It is a YA fantasy book with mermaids. I don't know if it's some kind of Little Mermaid retelling. I can't even think of the author's name. I want to say it's Alexandra Christo, but I still want to read that. I still want to read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is adult fantasy about this night carnival, this night circus. And then the last book on the priority read list is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, which is an adult fantasy. I think it predates one of his longer series. I don't really know. The guy has a lot going on. It is the only like Brandon Sanderson like novel that I'm planning on reading. I did recently pick up a Brandon Sanderson graphic novel. But Warbreaker is potentially probably going to be the only Brandon Sanderson novel that I read. I mean, we'll see how this goes. I really don't think I'm going to get into one of his long series where each book is, 1,000 pages long or more. And there's like 1,000 of them. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but only a little bit. But I do really want to read Warbreaker because I am interested in reading the Brandon Sanderson book because people talk about him so much. And this one comes recommended and it's a standalone. And I don't think I need to have read any of his other books to understand it. So it's a win-win-win. So that is all for this tag. Those are all of the questions. And yeah, let me know how you guys are doing on your reading goal. And do you have any books that you were like super looking forward to this year that are not out yet? Or maybe they are out, but you haven't picked them up from the store or the library or wherever yet. And I'm holding a pen for some reason. I have so many pins, you have no idea. So anyway, so that is all for this video. And yeah, I hope your June is getting off to a really good start. And I'm having a pretty good June so far. Really good reading month so far. Really good read so far. Things are just well in reading land right now. I will see you guys in the next video and have a great day or night or whatever. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.